I'm John Mercure. Welcome to a very special edition of Focus on the Falls. It's National Principals Month. I love this because I feel like so often we recognize our teachers and the kids know the teachers. The principals are the driving force behind what happens in the buildings here in Menomonee Falls. We've got a lot of special guests. All 6 principals in the Falls are here today, and I'm super excited about that. Dan Gebauer is the guy in charge of the high school. Teri Kovars is the middle school principal. Jenni Tamblingson at Valley View. Brad Hoffman at Shady Lane. Justin Goffard at Ben Franklin. Scott Walters is the guy at Riverside. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
This is a special treat for me. The superintendent suggested this, and it was a great idea because what I said at the very beginning I think is so true. You guys were all in the classroom at one point. You started as teachers, and now you lead our teachers who lead our young people. So thank you, first off, so much for what you do. I want to start with you, Dan, because you're at the high school, and ask you, how's the school year been going?
This is probably one of the best starts to the school year that I've ever had. It's
Wow.
my 3rd year at the high school, and I kind of joke with staff, saying like, now I kind of know what I'm doing while I'm there, but we've got a great plan this year, and we're all marching in the same direction and having a lot of fun doing it.
How important is it what Teri does and what the principals at the elementary schools do? Because they get our kids really ready incrementally to take those steps into the high school.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely crucial. And, Teri, and we'll probably talk a little bit about it today, is we meet weekly, if not twice a week. And the pieces that I'm really excited about what we're working on at the high school are pieces that we've jointly been working on together so that we have that alignment between 6, 7, 8, and then through high school. When we know what the kids are bringing in to the high school, we know where to start. We don't have to try to figure out exactly where that is. So that alignment is it's absolutely crucial.
Teri, how important is it to absolutely love what you do when you spend more hours some days with our students and our teachers than you do with your own family?
It's pretty hard not to love what you do when you get to hang with kids as much as we do, right? Like, they're just fun, and they're what brings the joy to what we do. As much as I love meeting with Dan, it's not the highlight of my week. It's the time that I get to interact with kids and do all of those things. So.
All right, check that off,
Yeah.
Teri. All right, our elementary school principals, I love being in our elementary schools. I love the art on the wall. I love the energy in the classroom. I love the little chatter that you hear when you're walking around. And Brad, I've been with you several times in your school, hanging out there at Shady Lane. What's the best part about being a principal?
People, both the big people and the little people. I mean, I think all of us are in this position because we wanted to work with kids, and maybe it started as coaching or babysitting or something when we were younger and turned into teaching or counseling and just kind of finding needs within our building that led us all into leadership. But it still remains true. That's the reason I did it, is because I wanted to work with kids. And then the bonus that you maybe didn't think about is the work we get to do with adults. Like, of course, when we were teachers, counselors, we had colleagues that we worked with, but it's in a different capacity as a principal. And it's just really cool to see amazing people do amazing work with kids, and I get to be a part of that and try to find a way to help them a little bit. Take a little bit of credit maybe, but we just have some amazing educators in our district, and I think especially at Shady Lane, and so it's really cool to be just part of that.
Scott, Justin, what's the most rewarding part about what you do day in, day out?
After you, sir.
I would echo what Brad said. I think it's working with the people. I think it's the connections that you make. I think we have an amazing staff of that go above and beyond for kids. They go above and beyond for each other. And I think it's just the connections that you make with kids on a daily basis. Seeing them out in the community is cool too. Maybe not in my grubby leaf raking clothes now as the weather turns. But it's all the connections and the things I remember are, when we were out, we just went through COVID a few years ago too, and just how the staff came together for kids and literally flipped on a weekend, how we came together as a team. Those are the things I remember, and how hard we work for kids and how hard we work for each other, and then those connections are what you remember too. So.
Jenni, what's it like to try to balance being with the kids and being in the hallway and chatting with them and doing this kind of work that you have to do day in, day out because you're an administrator?
Yeah, it can be challenging, but the priority is to be with kids and to be out in the building and be visible. That's really what comes first, and a lot of that paperwork and things that need to get done on a daily basis get done at home. Because our priority is to be with kids and with staff and And we're missing all the fun if we're doing the paperwork.
That's right.
We want to be, we
That's
want
right.
to be in the fun too, so.
I got so excited to talk to Jenni, I jumped over you. What's the most rewarding part?
I think everybody spoke a lot about the kids. I will say something that is different for me being in the 4K2 building is
Yeah.
how involved our parents are in this community. I can tell you, no matter if it's a hard phone call about maybe a student having a rough day or just a phone call letting the parent know how great their kid is doing, it's always a team in this community, and it's been amazing. This is my second year, and I don't think I've had a better or easier 2 years being a principal because of the staff, the students, and our parents. So that's been really excellent.
Dan, when I think about your story, and you grew up in the Falls, and a lot of you have a lot of rich history with the Falls, but you went through the Falls. You were in that building as a student, and now you lead students in that building. When you have time to reflect on that and your journey, what are some of the things that come to mind?
It's so different now than when it was a few years ago, 27 years ago. It's so different, and it's neat what kids are offered now. I look at our athletics, I look at our co-curriculars, I look at our clubs and activities, just the diverse choices that our students have. Our students are in internships, our students are doing job shadows. When I was in school, it felt like it was really just a four-year college prep, and now it's really comprehensive where we're giving our students a really nice view of what everything is that's out there for them to do when they finally leave the system.
I want to ask you all how you balance the personal need to be with kids and to have your soul fed and to do that sort of thing with what I asked Jenni about, the need to run a building and to run teams and to do that sort of stuff, whether it be budgeting or supplies or curriculum type questions. How do you balance the two with what you need to do? Because you got to get out of that office and get in the hallway, right? And Brad, I've seen you with your kids lots of times, and they like you and you smile and you seem so in your element, but you can't do that all day long. How do you balance those two things?
I'll let you know when I figure it out. I mean, like Jenni had said before, a lot of that stuff gets done at home, or you get, a conference day or a day off like we had last Friday, and that's the time to catch up. But I mean, it was a joke, but it really is a struggle. There's days where things kind of pile up, and so I'm like, I need to buckle down and get a little bit of work done, and then I go through several hours, and it's like, I haven't been out of my office. This isn't right. So, I don't know how we balance it, but somehow we manage, right?
Scott, do you find a way that you just have to say sometimes, Brad just referred to it, I got to get out there. I got to make sure I'm connected to the core of why I chose to do this.
I do. I think, you come back from a meeting or something, not that they're stressful or anything, but I think my greatest moments of joy are getting back in those classrooms. But I think the balance, we're so mobile now with what we do. So, I mean, I take my laptop everywhere in the building. So I can be in a class and I'm not really doing an observation per se, but I am pounding through emails or pounding through the budget or doing things like that. So I think we're in a world where we are so mobile and wireless where there are ways that you can cheat too.
Yeah, you have to, right?
Yeah.
Justin, you're with our really little ones.
Yeah.
What's it like to connect with them on a day in, day out basis?
I think my favorite time of the day is lunch time, not because I'm actually eating, but I do love that as well, as it may be obvious. But my favorite time is to be in the lunchroom and just sit with kids or walk around and open the milks and then go out for recess. Because I just, for example, one day I sat down and ordered the hot lunch and sat next to kindergartners and their minds were blown. And I was like the biggest rock star in the world because, Mr. Goffard, you're eating this lunch? I'm like, yes, it's a nice lunch. And they're sitting with you and then they all want to talk to you. And it's very satisfying. I think if you ever are having a hard day, go into a kindergarten room and they will just tell you all the reasons why you're special or why you're helpful or why they like you. It's really fulfilling, but it's also just there's a lot of joy there, and it's really important for us to remember this is how they come to us. They love being here, and what can we do to keep that going? And I think that's some of our main objectives, right? Keep the joy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. So Teri, you're with the middle schoolers, and that's an awkward age. That can be a tough age. It's an age where issues like self-esteem and they're trying to find themselves and they're nervous about going to the high school and all that come into play. How do you negotiate, how do you have your team negotiate, making sure they get what they need on a personal level and on an academic level?
So we work through that through the entire middle school experience, but I think our sixth grade team has so much experience and does such a great job of helping our students transition in. They know what it looks like for kids to come from a situation where they're more classroom bound to moving to different places throughout the building, what that looks like of organizing their materials and accessing a locker. The lock is always the highest anxiety point for kids coming in. So making sure that we build those skills in and directly teach them to students as they transition into school. As well as we have a great student services staff that helps connect with students when they're having those struggles that come with growing up and when friendships realign and change. So I just put it on the back of our staff being so amazing because they do a great job with that, and it's because kids are at the heart of it. And our mission is teaching and learning, but we can't teach. We're teaching children and keeping them at the heart of who they are and valuing who they are first and foremost, then accelerates that teaching and learning. So the staff here is great.
Jenni, we want our kids to have mentors. We want our kids to have people that they look up to and that they respect and that they can drive towards. As an educator, how important is it to have mentors and to have people that you can count on and you can call on when you have questions or you're trying to sort through things?
Oh, for sure. I mean, this team, joining this team has just been phenomenal, especially the elementary team. Scott, Brad, Justin, we're always talking, we're always calling each other. I think Scott and I actually just had a conversation last night about something, so we're always checking in with one another. And it's a great time to check in sometimes when you just need a laugh. So we are constantly in contact with one another. Daily, if not more than once a
I
day.
have to silence my phone at night because I go to bed so much earlier than these. And it's ding, 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 the text messages, and then I feel bad because there's a whole conversation that looks like I jumped out of, but no, it's just a good team. Yeah.
Jenni, who's the funniest on the team?
Oh boy, that's, I mean, me for sure. No. Definitely Scott and Brad keep me on my toes with jokes. And yeah, it's constant. And we have to laugh, right? We have to laugh. And we do. We laugh a lot. Yeah.
What's the biggest challenge being a school administrator in 2024? Brad?
I think just the responsibility that we have, right? All kids need to learn. They all need to grow. They need to be well adjusted to take on the challenges of the world. And, with, 4K through second grade buildings, sometimes it doesn't seem like those challenges are that big. But what we're doing now starts the path through all the way through high school, through post-high school and all of that stuff. So it's a big weight to kind of shoulder that we can't afford to get it wrong, and there's a lot of challenges. And so trying to meet those challenges to get kids what they need so that they can learn and grow, be ready for the next level. I think that's the hardest part. And I think all of us care immensely, so we take that on. I'm trying to find the balance of that. Like, I don't ever want to lose that because then I'm not in the right profession anymore. But I think finding a balance of celebrating the positive more than just worrying about the immense responsibility we have.
Justin, biggest challenge in what you do?
Honestly, our teachers do so much work to be ready to bring their best for kids every day. And it's trying to help them find some work-life balance. Their work is so important and they take it on so readily, but it's sometimes like helping them find, like, take a moment for yourself, take this time, or you know what, we'll cover your recess duty, stay in for 15 minutes, have a moment. I think the biggest challenge is helping our amazing staff sometimes take a moment for themselves, which is a great problem to have.
That is a great problem to have. Scott, how important is it to have an administration and a leadership that understands what your needs are and where you're going and that you can easily work with?
It's huge. I think, being in leadership, and I know our district leadership understands, don't ever forget where you came from. So to understand the challenges that we face, but I think we have a really supportive team. This team here is extremely supportive, and we're all on the roll day in, day out. But I think we get support from the top, and I've been here a while, and we've always had a supportive district office who understands us, supports us, gives us the resources, gives us the networking if we need it, the ideas, the push when we need it as well. I think that's super important. Yeah.
So Terry, before we came in to tape this, you guys all were meeting with special ed students here at North, and it warmed my heart, and you have different connections and pathways to them. The superintendent and I were talking while you were doing that about how important it is that you all have that connection on a daily basis to students you had or students that you will have. How important are those pathways?
So it's really important. When you asked Brad the question of like, what's the hardest thing for the principalship, and I was thinking in my head, like, what's my answer gonna be? And I think it touches here too, because it's really about like, we need to figure out what each individual student needs. What's the right push for them? What's the right connection for them? How do we hook them in? Who's their person? What is their like goals that we need to help them accomplish? And that is really individualized, and you see it for our students who have IEPs and those individual goals and plans, but every student deserves that. So who is the right connection to have? And sometimes I'm thinking of one of our 8th grade students who this year that connection's there and his entire educational experience is turned around. So figuring out that right piece of the puzzle to fit in is integral to students growing, and that's our calling, is to help students grow. But it's also like the biggest challenge for us to figure out.
When I'm in the high school for a sporting event or to buy some cool gear or for whatever I'm there for, sometimes, Dan, as I walk through your office area, I think about, my God, what an incredible responsibility you have and your team has. And then I think about, my God, what an incredible and amazing opportunity you have. You know, and for you, I mean, your teams are with kids who are old enough to drive cars and have jobs and make really good decisions and make really questionable decisions. It's an age that's so critical. Do you ever stop and think about not just how's the football team doing, but my gosh, these are young people that are about to go out into the world and be full-fledged adults?
Yeah, the gravity of that weighs on us often, and you know, just thinking about what Terry was saying, that puzzle, and it's funny because the puzzle changes from year to year too. It's a different puzzle every year because something that a student might need their freshman year, it's very different their sophomore year as they go through. It's always changing, and we're always retooling, and you know, going back to like the staff and the processes that we have in place. We try to catch those pieces as best as we can, and take on those challenges as the landscape changes for our kids. So it's when I think about it, I will walk into the building sometimes and be like, wow, 1,300 kids, 150 staff members. This is a big responsibility, but the way that the staff works together and what they do, just it brings all of us great joy at the high school.
How do you still have all that hair? It's not gray. It's not all gray.
It's a good question. My wife is very jealous too.
Yeah.
So
Scott and Justin look a lot more
I was gonna
stressed out
say,
than you.
yeah, exactly. We
do
work
have
a lot
much
harder.
job. Just much harder. Eating
Yeah,
lunch
exactly.
with kindergartners, playing at recess time.
It sounds like a rough gig.
Grass
Yeah.
doesn't grow on busy streets. So.
That's really good. I've never heard that before.
well.
Yeah, Jenny, I'm getting a little taste of what you were talking about. I need to get on this text chain, I think. Brad, how long have you been doing this?
It's a good question. I think 12 years as principal, 21 years in the district.
How have things changed in 20 years as far as what you see from students and their families?
I mean, the core of it hasn't changed at all. Like, it's still kids coming to school that need to learn, need to grow, parents who expect that their kids are learning and that they're safe and they're connected. And so not a ton. I think some of the challenges the outside world, so to speak, brings. I think of, you know, we've got kids who, some of our students now at our younger ages were born during the COVID times and missed out on a lot of really crucial socialization. You know, kids throughout the rest of the grades had a significant part of their life that was through that, and not necessarily the virus itself, but just how it affected us socially. You know, kids who spend a lot of time on screens. You know, that I think has changed a lot in the last 20 years. And I don't think we can always put our finger on what that's done to social skills. And so I think we're spending more time trying to work with kids on their ability to interact, their ability to problem solve. Those social skills I think is probably the biggest difference. But
I think it's about engagement too. We talked about a lot of that with COVID. I think, you know, and I don't want to say learning was passive, but in some ways 20 years ago, learning was a passive thing, and you would go and everybody would have the idea what a typical school would look like, rows, and we would sit and get. And I think our kids are on so much more social media now and so many more video games and everything, and it changed even more so with COVID. So how do we engage kids, because our job at the elementary level, some of the content they're going to get again, but really to teach that love of learning and how to be a learner and how to be active in your learning. We talk a lot about, is it engagement? Is it empowering kids to be learners, to advocate for themselves, because those are the skills they're going to need. They need the content, but they're going to need those skills as they go through middle school to high school and their jobs and et cetera.
So Jenny, your kids are 8, 10, are they 12 years old still at the elementary school?
Some of them.
12 years
yeah,
old?
Yeah.
And they're walking around with these phones that are like computers that are more powerful than anything you and I grew up with.
Right.
Does that present a unique challenge that they have such access to immediate information and immediate contact? And what kind of challenge does this pose?
Yeah, I mean, there's rules in place at school. You
Yep.
can't have your phone.
Yep.
But I know it can be distracting because they're still thinking about it after school or before school. They might be on it. So it definitely poses some challenges, and just educating kids and parents about social media and the challenges to be able to police that at home of some kind. Like, you have to be aware of what your kids are on, what they're saying, who they're texting. Yeah, it certainly is challenging in these days, but we have to educate kids and parents about the pros and cons.
I'm glad to be in a district and proud to be in a district where there are rules and there are discussions about phones and about that sort of thing. I think that's critical. Teri, it all gets to what I was asking you earlier about self-confidence and about self-esteem. And I guess I go down this path so often because I have daughters who graduated from the Falls, and they're now 30 years old, and they're doing fantastic. And they will be the first to tell you that foundation was laid here in the schools in Menomonee Falls. But part of that, especially I think as a young girl growing up, is how do you navigate Instagram and Facebook and people posting about how good their makeup looks, and trying to navigate all of that while also making sure that they're good at math and that they're prepared to get into the high school. How do you navigate that?
I think social media and technology is the #1 societal influence that's changed the way education looks and the skills that students are coming to us with. When you go all the way down to the K2 schools and you think about the oral language development and the amount of words that kids are exposed to before they enter school and the predictive factor of literacy skills there. So if kids are beginning their pre-education experience of life with less language, it sets them up to struggle throughout their educational career or have more learning that they need to do here. And then that leads into, when you talk about the social media pieces in middle school, like, it's scientifically proven that social media increases depression in our young girls in particular, but our young students. And so making sure that we're educating our families and our students about the roles of social media, the effects, how to keep it in appropriate settings. But it is very difficult to find an appropriate setting for middle school age students because their brain is still developing, and the ability to say something to somebody's face versus say something on social media is completely different. So it is a big challenge. It's something that we need to partner with our families about, because in school it's not happening. We have really strong procedures and policies around cell phones. It's not a significant issue here. But the things that are happening outside of here, so we need partners and our parents to make sure that our kids are getting what they need so they can be successful in their learning, so that they can be successful in what comes after us.
Justin, what I'm hearing loud and clear is that you have it the easiest. Because those 5-year-olds aren't logging onto Instagram.
I'd like to say we have an amazing staff. We have great families. We have great kids. Do we have some problems that sometimes are a little bit overwhelming for a moment? Of course. But the good outweighs the tough every single day. And it's because of the teams we have. It's because of the families. It's because of the kids. I feel very fortunate to be a principal of really young kids, because there's so much natural joy, and our teachers keep that going and really move kids forward. So.
All right, I want to end by asking you, similar to what I asked you at the beginning, I want to go around the table and tell me the very best part about doing your job. Your job is so important, and I think in the community we can easily take that for granted. What's the best part about doing your job? And I'm going to start with you, Jenny, and then we'll go around this way. I'll say it again so you have time to think about it. What is the best part about what you get to do day in, day out?
I mean, 100%, it's being with students, 100%.
Scott?
I would echo the same. It's the connections in the present, but I do enjoy 10 years later seeing kids that have went through Riverside 10 years ago and seeing what they're doing when they're 25 and just coming back to visit or seeing them out in the community. It's just awesome.
Brad, what do you think?
I agree. I mean, our business is learning, but it's the non-learning times that I think are the most rewarding, the quick highs, and we just got to see some of our former students at the middle school. It's one of my, I mean, I have kids at the high school and the middle school now, so I'm kind of in the middle of it. I get to see a lot of former students, and I love that. Walk across the graduation stage, playing in a football game and a band concert. That's the best.
That sounds rewarding. All right, Justin.
I think the most rewarding thing is having the ability to see the growth of a child. You have a 4K who comes in there here, maybe really struggling just to get in the door, and by the time they leave that grade or get into second grade, they're just doing so well. I think seeing kids grow and become who they're going to become is an amazing gift.
Yeah.
What do you think, Terry?
I sighed because I was good.
I saw it in your nose.
Yeah,
so I
you
just-
did, right? But I think it looks a little different at a secondary level because we see like what can come after school for kids if they don't have that growth. And to be able to see a kid's life get on a track where you're confident in their future success, that's really rewarding to know that you made a difference in a kid's life that put them in a place that they are going to be successful after us.
Dan, I feel like I should be calling you Big Daddy because you're like the principal of the high school. I know that's kind of a weird thing, but
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
all right, we agree on that. Big Daddy, what's the most rewarding thing about being the high school principal?
And I'll build on what Terry's saying. It's the success of the students. And honestly, I've been in a fortunate role where when I started in the district, I started here at North. And it's funny because the juniors at the high school, I had 6th graders at North. So they've had me for the last 6 years. And I've seen them grow from 6th graders to juniors, and just the difference and what they're accomplishing and what they're doing as a class is just, it's so fun to watch, and it's so enjoyable to see just what they're able to do. So, all the high school students, you see this evolution from freshman to senior year and what they accomplished during that time. And you just feel great about society knowing that when they leave our high school, they're prepared to do what they need to do.
How's that new athletics and activities guy doing over there?
Oh, he's great.
That guy looks like he
great.
could suit up and knock somebody down.
Yeah, his
That guy is,
biceps
that
are
guy is serious.
thicker than my legs, I think. So
Yeah.
he's amazing. But he is so good at what he does. Kids
Yeah.
love him, and he's doing some great things for the high school.
You guys, our community needs to not take for granted, because it's easy to think about the teachers that are wiping noses and that are walking in the little lines down the hallway, and those teachers don't get what they need. Those teachers don't get fed. Those teachers don't get any of that without you leading. And our community needs to take a beat and take a step and recognize that what happens in our schools, you guys lead that. What happens in our classrooms and our hallways and all that stuff is because of what the 6 of you do. And we want to thank you for that. It's critically important, and we kind of celebrate it this month, but I know the superintendent and I talk about this on a regular basis, and it's celebrated in the district office every month. And thank you very much for what you do. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
This has been fun.
Yeah.
All 6 of us. We should get together more often. Maybe we'll do it at the Hot House next time.
That sounds good.
Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. Let's focus on the falls.